Hey guys, Zai from Zai by Design here and CG Boss, and we are here with an overview of our new electric guitar collection. It's got a whole bunch of guitars for you, amps, speakers, all kinds of good stuff, and we thought we'd give you an overview and show you how a few of the things work. So we'll get started here. I've just got a basic setup with a male and a female. I've stuck them in a group so I can turn them off and we can play with them. The overall product you will find this is my dev library here, but you will find it in your DAZ 3D library. Same place in the props folder. And inside the props folder, you will have the electric guitar collection. And inside of that, you'll have a whole bunch of folders. And we'll show you what those are. Let's close these up. So you're going to have these bunch of folders here. They're all separated out depending on what they are. Amps, cases, picks, poses. Now, a quick word about the poses. You won't have this folder unless you buy the accompanying pack, which is all the guitar poses that go along with the 3 guitars. But I'm going to go ahead and cover both in this video so we don't have to make 2. So just know that if you only bought the guitar set, you won't have this folder, but if you did, it'll be right here along with everything else, and it will have poses for the female and male for Genesis 3 and Genesis 8. And also the regular poses that do come with the main set will be available in the guitar folder, so you have all of your wearables preset. So you've at least got a preset load for G8 and G3, male and female, for all of the guitars. So there's a basic load and there's a load for all the picks. So that does come with the main set, but the specialty poses are separate, but I'm going to cover both while we go through this. So let's take a quick look at what we've got here. We can start with the guitars and then we'll back up. So let's take a look at the guitars themselves. There's 3 of them. We have the Flyer, the Strutter, and the Wanderer, 3 different electric guitars. Each one, in the main guitar folder, you're going to find basically the 3 guitars themselves, and they'll load 2 different ways. You've got the basic guitar itself and the guitar with the strap kind of posed at the bottom for you, so it's kind of fancy and you don't have to do that pose yourself. You can use either one because the strap can be taken off easily, or you can hit the reset and have it go straight out and then you can start posing with it. Either way you want to load it, it's the same guitar. And then of course you've got the 3 different loads for the Flyer, the Wanderer, and the Strutter. So from there, let's say we would load one. Let's just load this one here, and we'll start with the Flyer. Now, when you start with the Flyer, I should have loaded the other one, because when you start with the Flyer, you can select the strap and hit this reset all rotations, and what that's going to do is straighten out the strap for you from one of these pre-posed, or if you've already posed something, it will straighten out the strap for you. There are fits, like we said, so you've got G3 and G8, and let me go turn one of those on. Let's bring our Genesis 8 out. I'm just going to cover Genesis 8 here, but all of this stuff works for G3 as well. There are separate custom fits, separate pick poses, and separate custom poses in the pose pack, all for G3 that are exactly the same as G8, so you can cover both generations, male and female, depending on what you like to use best. So let me bring Genesis 8 out of her little group so I can turn them off. And there she is. Now the guitar loads on the floor. Here's G8, and you actually don't have to load this itself. You can actually load these because they're wearables. So all you have to do is click your person here, make sure you get the right one, double click it, and it's going to load it right up on her for you. There you go. So now it's loaded, and if you need to, you can roll over and see these a little closer. They've got the bigger thumbnail so you can see how it loads. So it's loaded the strap and the guitar. It's a basic load, so it fits her body, comes around, connects to the end of the guitar, and you can pose her arms and legs as you like from there. This is a basic startup pose for you. And it should, let's see here, if you like, you can also go over to the picks one and make sure she's selected, and then you can pick from 2 different styles of pick. The pick only will load just a pick on the floor, so you can load picks only if you want to do something with that, or you can come over here and find G8 and tell it to load the pick, and it's going to stick that pick right on her thumb, whichever hand you want it on. Okay, so you can see it loaded right here. You can barely see it, and it will load right or left for G3 or G8. So let's move on. That's your basic load with your basic pick. And this will work for both male and female. And at the bottom of the pick thing, we'll come back to this later, is a little pick case that opens, an empty one that's closed, or one that opens and it's already full of picks, and you can move the lid up and down as you choose. So now we're going to talk about loading the guitar, which we've already done, and you can load it, like you said, with or without the strap. Now, the first thing you want to think about is that when you load the guitar itself, you want to load the strap and the cord if you need it, and then pose. If you're going to be doing your own poses. If you're doing the poses from the pose pack, you can just use the wearables in that, and I'll show you that shortly. But the thing you want to remember is the hip numbers need to be zeroed for the cord attachment to work. So let me show you that. That is down here at the bottom of the main guitar folder. So before you do anything, if you load a wearable or you load the guitar on the floor, whatever you want to do, always load your cables. You can load the cable itself, which is going to just load a straight cable on the floor that you can do whatever you want with. You can load a pre-posed curled up cable just for atmosphere, so to speak, so it looks like your scene's a little busier. You can reset the rotations. If you see this cord, if you're looking at the thumbnail here, that is actually a rigged cord rolled up. It does curl up like that. It's got controls, and it will curl all the way up like that for you. But we've done a pre-posed one for you. There's a way to reset all the rotations, but when you're loading a basic guitar, this is your main way of doing it. Before you do anything, come over here, and there's one for each guitar, and you want to select the guitar, and then just double click, and you'll see it'll snap right to here. Double click the cord, and it's going to snap it right in there, and the bones are turned on and visible. They won't render, but they're turned on and visible so you can see what you're doing. That way your cord is already snapped. If you move the guitar and the hip numbers are off from the actual object, if you look here, like if you move this instead, and you really want to be moving it with this and not with this, if these aren't zero, it's going to basically not snap to it. If you've already gone way far into your posing and you think, oh, I need a cord, try to remember to load it first so that it'll snap right into place for you, so you don't have to struggle with loading it. But that's what will keep you from loading it directly, is if your numbers on this are off. And I know we all tend to just grab the thing and start moving it. You just got to be a little bit careful, or else this snap to won't work for you. Now, this zero load, basically your basic load, is good for arms and legs only poses. Some abdomen twisting. If you look, this is actually parented to, not the hip. It's actually parented to the abdomen, which means you can actually turn her body a little bit so that if she bends, but if you move it with the abdomen lower, it's going to move with her. So if you turn, it's going to go with her a little bit. You can move fairly, a little bit. You can move her arms and legs, obviously, and everything else. But if you move this from the abdomen lower, where it's parented to, it's going to stay with her, and you don't have to really watch out for too much, except for if maybe the strap starts to cut into her hip or something. But it'll give you a little bit of freedom there to kind of move it around. And there's a little bit of clearance here for you to put clothes on. So if you have a shirt, you don't have to adjust it too much. You might have to adjust it a little bit, but there's a little bit of clearance there for you to go ahead and put clothes on. We try to give a little bit of tolerance there to make sure that that works. I'm going to stop for just a moment and actually show you something from the pose pack. I'm going to go ahead and turn this cable off because we don't need it for this. And let's get rid of this. And let's take this wearable off of her. And we're going to basically load one of the poses from the pose pack. And like I said, that's a separate purchase. So if you haven't bought it, you won't have this. But if you come in here to the poses, and we're on G8, and go ahead and click your pose. Then choose one of these. And if you say, let's do a standing one, because that'll kind of, with her hands on it. Let's load this one. Okay, now she's going to snap right into the pose and she's ready to go. But what if you need to twist her a little bit? What if you need to turn her a little bit? So if you go ahead and grab this, because it is parented, like we just said, to abdomen, where did it go? Here we go. Abdomen upper, right? Here's your wanderer. Then if you use abdomen lower and you twist this, she can move a little bit and you won't have to necessarily repose the strap, if that's what you need to do. You can also, of course, move her hands, but her hands stay parented to it so that you can kind of tilt her a little bit, move her a little bit. Just makes it a little bit easier to pose, and you just got to watch that she doesn't cut into her leg or, you know, stuff like that. But it basically keeps the hands connected, so it's a little bit easier to move around. You just got to watch your clearances on stuff, but that way her hands stay where they belong, and you can just kind of twist her where you need to go, or him, whichever one you're using. And you're going to want to move most poses that include props by moving the hip. If you move her, you're going to want to move her from here, so that everything goes with her, especially if she has a stool attached, or if she has she's sitting on the speaker, which is one of the poses. And there's another one here. Let's just take this off, and there's a reset here for you. Let's just reset her. Oops, let's actually select her and then reset her. So she's going to go back to that position. And say if you have something like, let's just load the Strutter here with her. This one actually loads a pose that has her in position. It has a guitar and a strap and the stool. So when you move her, if you go back to the guitar folder and say you want a chord for some reason, and you come back to guitars and you go down and find the one that is for the Strutter. Make sure you select the Strutter and then double click the chord, and it's going to snap right to it. And that's before you've done anything. Now, if you want to move this whole setup, say you got her on a stage or she's sitting in the corner or wherever she is, you're going to want to move her from the hip. And we'll go over here to posing and then go ahead and take the hip, and then, oops, sorry, you're going to want to move her from the entire one. Sorry about that. Let's see. And then you're going to move everything together with her. And you can do whatever you need to do doing that. Move her up or down if she's sitting on a stage or she's, you know, doing whatever she's doing. It's all going to move together so that it's all one group. And you attach the cord beforehand so that it's already attached and ready for you to pose it. And the last thing on the pose pack is that there are, so that I could cover it for you, where is it? There is 5 poses. So we've got a sitting pose on the floor or on a stool. We've got one where she's kneeling on the floor. You've got the one where she is sitting up on the speaker. She's kind of picking, not with a pick, she's finger picking. You've got a couple of standing poses. And what happens with those is each one of those has a matching expression. And it is a dialable expression as well as a just a straight load pose onto her face. And it will actually load a dialable expression, which you can take care of in your normal area over here under head. Let's go to that on the posing, and let's see, it's controls, and on the head you will find it under expressions. And there we are, electric guitar collection. You can dial them in, you can mix them if you like. And let's make sure we've got this one going over here. And she's starting to smile. It's hard to see because she's a little bit gray. You can mix them up a little bit. Just make sure you don't go too far and get a super big smile. But they're mixable or they're loadable from here. Each one has its own kind of matching expression that you can dial up to 100 and it'll fit perfectly for that pose. Or you can mix them up however you like. The same thing happens. These are all matched from G3 or G8. They're slightly different because the face bones are different, but they're the same basic expression on both. And then you've also got those along with the male. And this is where we get into the iconic poses, and we'll play with those a little bit later. But you've got the basic jump pose in here, and your kind of Elvis-y pose with the matching expression, Mr. Hound Dog. And you've got the Angus expression, you've got your basic rock star pose, you've got kind of a crash slash pose. So any of these you can put on, use the matching expressions, and they will load as a wearable. Already in position, ready to go. The only thing you won't have is the cord, so make sure you load it if you need it. And some of them load with straps, some of them don't. It depends on the pose itself. Most of them load with straps, a few don't. The other thing you actually have is this little set of bonus horn hands poses for male and female, both generations. So you can use those on any pose, anything you like. They don't have to be these poses, but they're separate individual hand poses for each one. And the last word about Parenting is that most of them are like I showed you, the abdomen upper. The parent is to the abdomen upper, which keeps the hands on the guitar. You can move the lower body freely. You can reparent to something else if you need to. The seated poses are the only ones parented to the hip because it keeps the guitar on the floor. You will have to reposition the hands and arms, or parent to the hand and it might move with it. But those two, in order to keep everything on the floor, needed to be parented to the hip. So that's basically it. So let's go through the folders and we'll show you what we've got real quickly. You've got your guitar cases, the picks folder that we went through, the poses that come with the outside pack, some guitar stands that are preloaded, the guitar strap and all of its extra stuff, all your colors and all of that good stuff, the guitars themselves. Then you come down here and you've got your stools in metal or wood, and you've got your microphone and all its associated little pieces. So that's a basic overview of the whole set. So let's dig in and get a couple of things in particular and see what we've got for you. Okay, so now we are going to go through some of the other bits and pieces. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to turn her off and hide her again so we don't have to look at her, and we don't need the pick. Let's see, let's get rid of little tiny picks on the fingers, and we'll get rid of those for using her later. And I'm going to go ahead and put her into a group so I can turn her off. And so I'm going to start with the Strutter because it's the larger base here, and I'm going to load it with the strap on the floor. So there we go. Okay, we're just going to zoom in on this strap and just work with this. So here's that basic floor load. So you can see we've got a strap already posed. It's kind of cool, just sitting on the floor. You can do what you want with it. And I'm going to cover what the colors are, and we're going to do that for the strap, the guitars, and the stools, because they all have light editor presets and lots of color choices. So there's a lot of mixing it up you can do to really customize these, and plus there's a whole bunch of presets. So let's start with the guitar. So if you open the guitar folder, you're going to see the Flyer, the Strutter, and the Wanderer. And if you start at the top, it's got some little notes here to remind you that when you work with this, you need to basically choose your color first, then apply your graphics and change your metals all the way down here. Then you can add your flames, but if you kind of follow this in order, you'll come out at the end all done and ready to go. The light editor tends to reset things, so you kind of want to follow this in order so that you don't go over top of things if you're using the customization for yourself. If not, you can come into each one of these folders. There's going to be a full preset folder, which actually has pre-done light editors and a reset for you. You always want to go back with these if you're going to load another one. Go ahead and hit the reset and then load a new custom setup. We've got our gold record and double platinum and some basic flames. We've got some for the girls, some for the guys, and each one has slightly different. They're not all the same. So if you look in the Strutter presets, they're different styles. These only work on the guitar that they're on. They're presets for each individual guitar. So these won't work interchangeably. They're the ones for each individual guitar. All of them do have the double platinum and the gold record though. So you'll see that there's 15 of these, 5 for each guitar, all slightly different, all kind of customized in the light editor with interesting ways of doing stuff. But if you want to design your own, which is what most people do if they're not going to use one of those. Oops, let's open the guitars back up and let's go to the Strutter. Okay, so if you're going to design something, you want to start here. Here's your reset. Be patient, the light editor takes its time, as we all know. So if, let's say we want to do a red one with some flames. So you just click the body, go ahead and, hit the red base color. It's going to change the base and the neck together. All of the metals are already preset. You don't have to do anything, but if you don't like those setups, you can come down here and you can choose an acrylic or a metallic or a wood. There's 10 of each of those and 4 wood presets. And then you can come down and say, okay, I want to add some flames. Now this is the light editor. You can choose the white, black, or flames themselves, and there's some customization there that you can do yourself, which we'll cover in a second. So let's just go ahead and add some white flames. And that's an easy load, it takes a second. And once that loads, you can also choose 4 colors of pick guard. You can choose all of your metals, and it's not going to look so hot in the viewport, but it will render fine. And if you like that pick guard fine, you can change the pick guard as well. No need to actually select the surface per se. It will go ahead and load for you. Then there's also some specialty pick guards in here, which you might want to load last. It's also with the lie editor. And if you can see these, they're basically skulls and flames, which look really cool. There's also a kind of a Western-ish style, which has a matching strap that goes with it. So you can do the whole skulls and flames thing, or you can do the Western look, either way. And they come in gold and silver, and they both come for each guitar will have its own set of these, especially set up for each one. Then once you get that in there, and I'm not going to load that because it takes a minute to load that. Once you get that in there, you can come and customize your metals. So you can come in and change the knobs, change the fretboard black or brown. You can change the actual frets themselves, come down through your pickups black or white, all of your tuner knobs, and all the way down to the bridges. So you've got a lot of customization, and it only takes a couple of clicks to design something up that you like. And you can go with that if you like. And then you can move on and do the same thing with the strap. And I'll go over that in a second. But with the lie editor, I'm going to cover it here real quickly. If you say you have some white flames and say you want to do something a little bit different with it, there's a bunch of gradients that you can use to really customize your flames. If you want to do something different than what you see here with these specialty settings, you can see I've used pink and orange, and we've gone with the gold and the silver and the blue, and we've used some gradients, and there's something that is not what you're seeing here, which is just a basic black, white, and regular flames. We've actually used these gradients to create something a little different. So to do that, you're going to have to go in and select the guitar, come over to the surfaces, go ahead and hit the Strutter or whichever guitar you're working on. And here you can actually mix things up. There's a ton of matte options for this, so you can really just mix it up to your heart's content. So if you come down here to the, where are we going here? The body itself, and we'll take that load. Now it's got all of these mattes on it here. What you're going to want to do to change things up, to really get into customizing it, is go ahead and click your base color and go to the layered image editor. And once you're in there, this takes a second. This is always the fun part, but it takes a minute. Once you get in there, you're going to want to hit zoom to fit so you can see what you're doing. And you can see it's added a layer here. This is the basic body itself. It's added a layer here with a mask. And what that does is it puts an alpha on there, and it blocks out the flames, so only the flames show through right over top of whatever the body color was. And this new layer here is basically the alpha. And the mask is here as the same alpha. So if you want to add a color, you can change this alpha here, and you'll have to navigate to the folder. But if you click this here, we're going to browse to it and go find your runtime folder. And let me go and find mine. And you come into wherever your runtime folder is, where your textures normally live, and go into the CG Boss folder, iRay, Electric Guitar Collection, and find the gradients actually live in the strap folder because they work with the strap too. So you want to find the strap folder, and once you're in there, you will see a bunch of gradients right here. Ignore all of the rest of this stuff. This is just the basic pad for the strap and the graphics, but these gradients right here are great to work with. So say we wanted to, for whatever reason, put blue flames on a red guitar. It's probably not going to look so hot, but we're going to use that one just for an example. So if you change that and make that the gradient, see how it changes it? It actually is inverted on this one, and we're just going to invert that back, and it basically puts a blue set of flames over top of it. And you can change the opacity of that. Most of these come in at 90, so that they kind of let the underlying body show through a little bit so they don't look stuck on. But you can layer these as much as you want, and you can turn this down and lighten it, and see it gets more subtle. You can rotate that gradient. It's not going to rotate the flames, it's going to rotate the gradient. So your breakup of the dark blue and the light blue, or the darker and lighter sections of whatever gradient you're using, will actually shift. So you can turn that 180, which is just going to flip it around, but you see they kind of went vertical. And usually you're going to want to leave that on alpha channel blend, but you might want to play with these degrees. Go back to 90, it's going to shift where they land. So you can get really the look that you want. You can only do the 4 directions. You can't totally change it to individual degrees, but you can go these 4 directions. You can flip it horizontal or vertical, and you can play with all of this. The other thing you can do is blow these up if you want to. If you're not getting quite the blend that you want, you can take these up to, like, say 200. They're fairly high res, and they just are overlays. So you can take these up to 200 or 400. It's just a gradient, and you can blow that up, and that's going to also shift the position of where the flames fall, depending on what you want to do. So if we were doing, say, tone on tone, let's go change this one real quick to something that's prettier on red. Let's do the yellow, which is going to give you a flame kind of look. And all the other settings stay the same. So now we've got kind of flames. And maybe we don't want that so light. Maybe we want it really strong. You can take that up to, say, 90. I don't know that I'd go on a full 100. But let's say that's back at 90. And you've got the flames in the position that you want and the scale that you want. Anybody who's played with a lie editor knows it can be a lot of fun. It's a little slow, but it's a lot of fun. And once we've done that, you can just hit accept, and you're going to have flames on your guitar. Now we basically gave you some flames like this already, which will go over any color. But give it a second to change here, and it should show up. Just takes its time. There you go. So now you've got flames on your guitar, and that could be any color. The last thing you want to do, if you want to get a little bit of shine to them, a little bit of metallicity, is you want to go into the metallicity channel and add your flames, so that if you want, say you have an acrylic and you want your flames to look a little bit metallic, you can go in here and say layered image editor again, and you're just going to add that alpha. I'm going to zoom to fit again, and we're going to add right here, add a layer and add a mask. Okay. And we're going to add the mask, which is in that folder. You're going to back out of the straps folder. You don't want the gradient here. You just want the alpha to make the metal affect where the flames are. So we're going to back out of that real quick and go into the guitar folder. You want to go to the guitar that you actually have. And in this case, we're using the Strutter. And you're going to look in the graphics folder, not the metals, just the graphics folder. So that's going to give you the flames alpha for the base of the body. These ones up here are the pick guards, so you're going to want to go with the flames. So open that up, and we're also going to put it, give it a second, and we're also going to apply it here. Browse, and apply it there as well. And there it is. So what that's going to do is basically make the flames only into a little bit of a metal, so they'll shine. And you can tell it how much you want it to affect it. You can set it here and a combination of the metallicity over here as well. So if you really want to dial it into a mellower shade, kind of a tone on tone look, you can turn this down a little bit. You can't change the rotation. You want to keep that exactly right, or else it's not going to fit in the right spot. So we'll do that, and that will give you a little bit of metallicity to those flames. The other thing you might want to do is come down here to the glossy roughness and add it into that. If you can see on this map here, you can see that there's a little bit of scratches. They're not heavy-duty scratches, but it gives it a little bit of realism. And you may want to do the exact same thing by adding that mask the same way to your roughness map as well. And that'll give you some really interesting looks. And that is how we created all of these, which were the full lie presets, which you can see in the promos, and they turn out looking really great. But that's how we created all of these. I had even on this one, let me roll over this for you. For the pink one, you can see there, I even applied that gradient to the body and turned it and made it bigger. And you can see it gave you kind of almost a tie-dye look body. And I applied the pink gradient to the body itself, and the flames, and I dialed them back a little bit and played with the opacities, and ended up with some really, really customized stuff. The same thing was done here for the kind of tone on tone for the silver, and the tone on tone for the gold. It's real subtle. The same thing was done here with the white and the blue. for these. And you can just dial in whatever you want. You can mix it up as much as you want. So if you want to study this a little bit and look at how the settings were done for each one of these guitars and the way they were achieved, just go into the Lie editor and check it out. This is like a tone on tone, dark red on a metallic. This is your basic flames metallic. This one was using the blue gradient on a black guitar and kind of dialed back a little bit. And then you've got your normal gold record and double platinum. Then there's a couple more in here with the Wanderer where we've done it even down to the pink on pink and another type of blue, but they're all using those same 5 gradients in different settings, opacities, and different levels of metallicity and roughness. And you can just play with that to your heart's content and create just about any guitar you want. So now we're going to move on. This exact same way of working will work on the strap as well. So let's go in and cover the strap. I'm going to get rid of the guitar here for a minute, and I'm going to go back here and load a strap. And this is the basic strap. It's just going to load it straight on the floor, and we're going to turn and look at it real quick and zoom into it a little bit. This works the same way as the guitar. You've got to reset the strap materials if you like. It'll turn everything back to black. This actually loads the prop. This is the reset. So you've got a bunch of pose utilities which will let you shorten and lengthen the strap back out if you like. If you need to, you can do this while it's on a pose or on a figure. It'll help you pose a little bit. We've got the same thing here with the for the nylon part of it as well. It can go really long or short. You can also dial those from your dials over here and lengthen it with the X and Y, or with the lengthener on that dial as well. But this just gives you a quick way to do it. If you've posed the strap, you've got to reset for all your rotations, and you can basically reset everything on the strap. You can reset just the pad or just the nylon if you like. But those are all your kind of posing utilities if you need them. If not, you can feel free to work through the scene tab and pose, which we're going to cover in a minute. So when you're doing the same thing with the colors here, you want to do the same thing as you did with the guitar. Start with a color and then come down to, let me move this up so you guys can see it. Come down, and these won't affect it. It's only on the pad that the graphics affect. So if you pick your color here and you come down here and you say, oh, okay, I want this to be red for the strap, and I want to come down, there's tons of colors in here for you. I want the ends to be orange, and that'll do the ends, and I want my metals to be red. You can build whatever you want with it. Let's put that back to silver a little bit so some of this stuff shows, and you can come back up here and go ahead and reset it all the way back to black. So when you're adding the graphics, it's the same thing here. You want to load your graphics after you've applied your colors. And there's flames in here, and there's also skulls in here, and there's also western in here for you to match whatever you like with your guitar. It works exactly the same way as the guitar itself. The Lie editor works the same, the metallicity kind of works the same, the roughness works the same. So you can design up whatever you like with it, and you have a reset if you need to back up or change things. But the Lie editor really only works on the pad. So you don't need to worry about changing anything else. You can change that after you've applied Lie editor and made changes. It won't hurt it. Just make sure if you're working on the pad, you're going to have to go back and reset if you decide to just change your mind and use another preset. This also has a bunch of pre-made straps. So if you like one, fine. If you want to load one of these and change it slightly, go ahead. I'm going to just load one now because they take a minute to load. You could start with this and change some of just the ends and the straps instead of the pad, and it won't affect it. But there's tons of changes in here that you can make. They work all the same way. And like I said, go into the Lie editor and change out whatever you like. The other thing you have is with the strap itself, and we'll come back to posing shortly, is the stools. The wood ones load, they're self-explanatory. It's just a wood stool. You load your prop, and let's do this. You've got your wood choices. That's just your basic wood stool. But with the metal stool, you've got the same thing. You basically load your prop. There's a short and a tall for both the wood and the metal stools. So if you load this a stool, you're going to get the same thing. And let me just move this guy over a little bit. And then I'm going to zoom in on the top for you so you can see what it does. This is going to do exactly the same thing. Kind of works the same way, except for these flames are really specific. They don't work with the gradients. They pretty much work only with the ones that go with it, but you can adjust the metallicity and you can adjust the layering if you really want to. There's a ton of leather styles in a bunch of colors. So let's say we want to make it red. We'll make it red. And then if you want to load some flames on top of that, you just hit the light editor and go from there. Now, that's fine. Once you get to here and it loads it, it always goes back to the other color. It looks like it's not working, but it actually is. So you get up with this. I'm going to undo this real quick. The one thing that you can customize quite a bit is if you load this, either one of these skulls, we've given you an already done black or white. Let's say you load a white skull on here and it throws the skull right in the middle of it. And once that loads, you can change this skull to any color that you like. Just go over to the surfaces, open up the skull, and choose the seat top. The seat bottom is underneath. The seat top is the leather on top. And if you want to, you can just go right up here to this color and change to any color that you like. And it will change it to that color. So that makes that one, that's why there's only 2 settings for that, because you can change it as much as you like just using the diffuse color. So that covers how to change all the colors, how to customize the guitar, and how to use the Stools. That does quite a bit of the stuff that we're working on here. So let's see what else we've got here. Let me just delete that. And before we get to any kind of posing, which will help you guys, let's go back to, we covered the pick cases and all of that stuff. Let's see. The last thing we need to cover, we've got a microphone in here for you guys. And the microphone's pretty straightforward. It's just your basic vintage microphone. And let me reset this. We'll get rid of this stool. It comes already kind of pre-posed for you in a kind of a simple pose so that it's kind of out of the way and it's not in the way of your character. There is a secondary pose in there, and when you grab that, it will actually wrap it around the cord. And let's do that. So it's just a little bit of a different pose, a little more realistic pose. You also have a set here that will give you already hooked up to the amp if you load that, so you don't have to do that work. And then you can just bring your character in and hit a couple of poses, but it's already hooked to the back of the amp for you guys. It goes all the way up, and you can see there's a bunch of controls here. There's detail all the way across the back of these speakers, which I'll show you in a minute. And it actually is plugged all the way into the amp. You don't have to do that work. We did that for you. Just to speak about the amps and speakers right here real quickly while we're here, this is the tube head, or your basic speaker stack. Each one of these pieces are individual. Let me show that to you. You got your tube head here. All of the dials work. The buttons flip. The light lights up. All of these can be, plugged into. This is the angled speaker. I'll turn that so you can see that. The angled speaker kind of tilts back a little bit. And then the bottom speaker down here is just a straight speaker. It's got wheels. Let me switch back over to here real quick. Like I said, we also have a practice amp, which I'll load in a second. Let me go down here. But they come in silver or gold, so you can change that. The wheels turn on and off. There's some presets that will drop it to the floor, turn the wheels on and off for you. The wheels do rotate, so they're rigged and they'll turn. And like I said, all of the dials work. And we even have, for you guys, let me just get rid of this one. So you've got a single stack like this. You've got all the individual speakers. And you've also got, if you need it, pre-done for you, the giant speaker wall, which is really handy when you don't want to set up a whole scene, and it's already pre-done for you. You already got a wall ready to go, which is set. And everything, of course, you can go back and change all of these. You're probably not close enough to need to change these, but you could change the wheels for a little bit of more realism. So that kind of covers the amps and speakers as well, except for our little, let me get rid of this group here. Let's see, get rid of the microphone and the speaker group. And let's go with this little practice amp, the compact amp. When you bring that in, zoom in on that, Same thing here, all of the dials turn, and if you look over here on any of them, let's go over here, you do have all of the dials turn. The cord goes side to side, and I'll turn that in just a second. You'll see there's a cord in the back that's already set. It's already attached. You don't have to attach it like the guitar. It's already set, and there's also something to drop it to the floor for you. So double click the pose and it will elegantly drop it to the floor for you, and you only have to pose the back end. That is basically, let me zoom in on the end of that so you can see that. That's basically your power cord. Then you've also got a front cord, which is the other cord that comes with the guitar. And we showed you that earlier, so you can see that, and that way you can load your guitar, attach your cord, set this where you want, and then the only thing you really need to do is basically take the guitar cord and hook it up to the front here and turn on the light if you want to. But you can actually dial all of you can move the cord however you want with these. You can use them from the scene tab over here, and actually come all the way down into the cord here if you want to. And if you open this up, it actually does have the entire cord there, or you can use the dials, either one, and it will move and snake along the floor for you. All of our cords work the same way. So let's come over here and grab this, and the dials, let's go down here to the cord bending. Let me see if I can find that all the way back out. Probably better to view it from the top. And you can plug and twist whatever you like. You can do these side to side. It will move. The better way to do some of this is to grab multiple things like this and then bend them that way, and it'll do a whole section at a time. And a lot of times you can go side to side on the floor if you like. Twist will just kind of put it in a circle. And then you can bend it whichever way you want. And the best way to do it elegantly is to grab kind of groups of it. If you grab the entire thing, it's going to curl up, like, if you can even get the entire thing because it's really long, it's going to go ahead and you want to grab all of that, and you can do this with any cord. Grab all of this over here so you have all of it. And then when you hit bend, it's going to curl right into a circle for you. It's that fully rigged. And of course, side to side is going to move it even more, but it will curl right up into a circle, into a spiral for you. It's kind of hard to see, but let's zoom in on that. It will go that far. So it's fully rigged for you guys, depending on what you want to do. Okay, so let's back out of here and see what we've got left. And we'll get this giant wall of yellow out of here. Take that out. And let's see, we've covered amps and speakers, we've covered the picks, we've covered the poses. Let's go to the cases. One of the things we haven't covered is the cases. There's two kinds of cases in here. There's an open and a closed, so you don't have to do the work of opening or closing it. They do come apart. They're the same as the other ones. The latches are rigged. Let me load one of these for you. Plus, each one loads. The universal case fits all of the guitars, but we've given you preloads for all of them. And the preloads basically put it right into the case. You can open and close this a little bit if you want to. The latches do move. Let's see. So you see the latches do move. The top of the case actually does move if you like. And of course, you can change the colors of this guitar the same way I showed you before. And of course it fits each one. They're just preloaded for you. Or the other bonus we threw in was the pre-done flyer case, already open. It's shaped perfectly. You don't have to fit it in here. It's already done. And of course this is separate, so you can move it if you need to. But remember, the guitar is in there, so if you're going to move it, that's going to move it together for you so that nothing comes apart, depending on where you grab it. Okay, so let's see what we have not covered. We did amps, cases. Let's see, what else have we got? The strap, the stools, the microphone. I think we've covered just about everything except for the stands. So let's go and grab those. And let me get rid of this guitar case and close her up. And let's grab the stands. And you can see from in here that we've basically got a single stand or a triple stand. Plus each one of the types of stands comes loaded with each guitar already preloaded, which you can change the colors on, and the strap, of course, and set that up any way you like. And I'll just quickly go through these because they're not a major deal, but what we've done with them is, and these take a minute to load because it's loading 3 guitars plus the stand. Okay, it's loaded now. Let me back out so we can see. There we go. So basically we've got a load of 3 of the same kind of guitar with their straps and kind of already designed up in a basic way. You could go and throw some of those designs on them like we showed you earlier. And we do that for all 3 different types of guitar. So you have 3 Strutters, 3 Wanderers, or 3 Flyers, and then there's also a triple load which has 1 of each. So the only cool thing here is, besides they load with wood or metallic, so you've got your gold and silver and then a whole bunch of woods. They're the same woods that match the stool. And all you got to do that is obviously click it and load it, and it will change the color for you. And the last part on this is these stands actually light up. So if you see the little white parts on the side, and they actually do light up with like different colors. So you can change the colors, as well as there's a light at the base, and it's kind of hard to see from here. But if you look, there's a light right here that shines up onto the guitar, and then there's a light that goes all the way down the side of these straight pieces. And once you've chosen a color, you can choose the intensity from low to high, and then you can also change, there's a little tiny bit of a pattern depending on how much of a close-up you're doing. You've got plain, and then you've got a longer pattern and a shorter pattern, and you can turn those up or down as you like. So that's the stands. They're pretty easy. A lot of it is preloaded, so you don't have to pose the straps. You could take just one off and maybe somebody's playing one of them, whatever you like, but they make nice background pieces, and you can light them up. If they're on stage, they'll look kind of cool lit up near that speaker wall, and draw a little attention to them. So I think that covers everything, and we're going to move on into the second video. I kept the posing of the actual strap separate because that's the hardest part. This is just all the bits and pieces and how to do the basic loads, but we're going to do the posing in a separate video so that if you want to get straight to posing, you can.